coming to you again from my back porch. I hope you're doing wonderful this morning. Uh, I sent out a short to talk a little bit about what I'm going to talk about this morning. My challenge as we sit through this, here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit in the perspective when Jesus came into the temple and overturned the tables. I want you to think as a person selling doves. I want you to think of that person, because I want to use probably the sweetest thing of all the things that they were doing. There were money changers, there were people selling oxen, and there were people selling doves, it says. So I want you to think of, you were one of the people selling doves in the temple when Jesus came into it. That's all I want you to do. I want you to think, how did you feel when you just selling doves, and Jesus came into the temple and overturned your table and let your doves loose? That's all I want you to do. And I want you to listen to what it is, and then I want to have some closing thoughts at the end of this, okay? So that's all I want you to do. First, I want you to turn to Mark chapter 11. And again, I just want you to think as that person selling doves. It says, they came to Jerusalem, and he went into the temple and began to throw out those buying and selling. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves, and would not permit anyone to gather goods through the temple. He was teaching them. It is not written, he says, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of thieves. But what's next is very important. And it says that the chief priests and scribes heard it and started looking for a way to kill him. Okay? So keep that in your mind. And then we're going to move on to the next one. This is another perspective of the same thing. So we're going to go to Matthew. And I'm going to get to a point, and I want to talk about it, but I want you to kind of just get into this mode and listen to listen to where we're at, okay? Still be thinking about, you're the person selling doves, and Jesus came in and turned over your chair. So now we're in Matthew 21. It says, Jesus went into the temple and threw out all those buying and selling. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the chairs of the ones selling doves. He said to them, it is written, my house will be called the house of prayer, but you are making it a den of thieves. Then the blind came to the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonders he did, and the children shouting in the temple, Hosanna, the son of David. You've got what Jesus did. He overturned the tables, and then he was healing people. You're still the person with the doves. Are you mad? Are you sad? Are you glad? And where were you beforehand? How did you think of Jesus before he came into the temple? Now, how do you think of Jesus after he came into the temple? Are you mad at him? Are you mad because he let your doves go? Let's go to one more. John chapter 2, verse 13. Chapter 2, verse 13. This is another perspective. This is the perspective of John. So we're still trying to, this is the last part of building what we think of Jesus for doing what he's doing. Jewish Passover was near, and so Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple, he found people selling oxen, sheep, and doves, and he also found the money changers sitting there. After making a whip of cords, Jesus just making a whip of cords. So now what do you think of Jesus? Now what do you think of him? He's mad. In another translation, it says he was indignant. I want you to go and look up what indignant means. And you can even go and look at what the translation was in Hebrew as well. It said that he was growling. Now what do you think of Jesus? Was he your sweet Jesus? Was he your sweet baby Jesus? You're going to have to let me know. Let me know in the comments down below. But we're not done. He said he made a whip of cords and he drove everyone out of the temple with their sheep and oxen. He also poured out the money changers' coins and overturned the tables. He told those who were selling doves, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." And his disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." So, where are we at? How are you still feeling as that person that was selling doves? Is Jesus just being, Jesus is being mean? So would you still vote for Jesus? Would you vote for him as the Son of God? Was he justifiably angry for what was happening to the temple? Should we change the way that we think of Jesus because he was indignant? It says he was indignant. It says from his stomach he growled because they were doing something wrong. And this is part of my last closing part, and I'm going to have a little bit more to add to this, but we're going to keep going. We're going to go back to Mark 7. We're going to go back to Mark 7. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Always remember that. It'll help you navigate the first part of the New Testament. Just going to add a little bit more to this. I still want you to be thinking as that person selling doves. Okay? That's all I want you to do. The Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around him. They observed that some of his disciples were eating bread with unclean, that is, unwashed hands. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they give their hands a ceremonial washing, keeping the tradition of the elders. When they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they have washed. And there are many other customs they have received and keep, like the washing of cups, pitchers, kettles, and dining couches. So the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why don't your disciples live according to the tradition of the elders, instead of eating bread with ceremonial unclean hands?" He answered them, "Isaiah prophesied correctly about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. They worship me in vain, teaching as doctrines human commands.' Abandoning the command of God, you hold on to human tradition. You have a fine way of invalidating God's command in order to set up your tradition. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and mother, and whoever speaks evil of father or mother must be put to death.' But you say, 'If anyone tells his father or mother, whatever benefit you might have received from me is Korban, that is an offering devoted to God,' you no longer let him do anything for his father or mother. You nullify the word of God by your tradition that you have handed down, and you do many other similar things. Listen to me, all of you, and understand nothing that goes into a person from the outside can defile him, but the things that come out of a person are what defile him." So that's where we're at today. We have a lot of undecided voters. And I wanted you to seek the perspective of the person selling doves in the marketplace of the temple. Jesus came into that temple with a whip, and he chased all those people out. Was he chasing you out of the temple, selling that dove, or those doves? And are you mad at Jesus? Are you mad at him because you were doing something wrong and he held you accountable, but he held you accountable with an indignant attitude and with a whip. We have a presidential candidate right now that is angry with the way our government is treating us. And you know, sometimes he sounds mean and indignant. And I'm not calling him Jesus by any way, shape, or form. But what I am saying to you is that sometimes it sounds mean. And it sounds mean because right now people are hurting. People are hurting because we got people coming out of high school and college. They can't get anything. They can't have a place of their own. They can't buy a home. We got families that can't buy groceries because it costs an arm and a leg. We got people out there without a job. They can't find jobs. But the government keeps telling us that everything is okay, and it's not okay. We need somebody in the presidency that's going to go into that temple and overturn the tables. And you know what? Sometimes he's going to be indignant. He's going to be mean. But you've got to get off of this sensitive, rainbow bright horse that you're on. You have to get in a place where you say, you know what? I am sick and tired of where we're at. I am sick and tired of listening to these delusions from these people over and over again. We need to sit down. We need to pray for these people and unlock them from the spirit of which it's just overturning our entire country. I want you to see it. And I pray right now, if you've made it this far in this video, that God has unlocked something in you that just says, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to vote. And I change my mind. I'm going to go out there and vote for the one that's indignant, that's mad at where our country is going, is mad about where we're headed. We're headed in the wrong direction, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you. But we need somebody that's going to be mean. It's going to be mad and sick and tired of where we're going. That's what we need. We need that more than ever. And I pray that if you weren't voting, that you do vote. And if you were voting and you decided, you know what, I'm going to go vote for another candidate just because this other candidate is mean and not nice. What was Jesus in this? Was Jesus nice? Was this sweet baby Jesus? No. This was indignant Jesus. This was Jesus that was growling mad because things were going the wrong way. And sometimes me, Andy, I'm going to get mad. But sometimes my mad is going to be justified. Think about that today. That's all I want. I woke up today and I was just fired up. And I went through all these verses and I wanted to see it and hear it. Because a lot of people will put Jesus in this little bitty box and everything is calm and collective and sweet and nice, and he never said anything bad, and he never said anything that was going to hurt anyone's feelings. Do you know how many feelings he hurt that day? I believe if you were that person selling doves that day, that your feelings were hurt. But did it change your vote for Jesus? Did it change your vote and say, you know what, Jesus is no longer the Son of God? Is that what you said? Did you change your mind because he was growling mad? I hope not. But I hope that this thought process or this perspective that I've given you today makes you think differently on where you're going to vote. Because I believe that there's one man that could get us out of this. And I'm not saying that he's the Son of God, and I'm not saying he's Jesus, but sometimes he's got to be mean, and he's got to growl, and he's got to do the things that needs to be done for our country. And it's not sweet baby Trump or sweet baby Harris that's going to get us out of it. It's going to be an indignant businessman that's going to dig us out of this hole that we're in. So please, I pray that the Lord touches your heart today. And I hope you have a wonderful and amazing Christ-filled Labor Day weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.